Her Excellency Minister Valo Belkacem for her statement. And I now give the floor to His Excellency Mr. Youssef Amrani, Minister Delegate of Foreign Affairs and Cooperation of Morocco.
Thank you, Mr. President, Foreign Secretary William Hague, for your presence and for organizing this important debate today. And your presence today amongst us denotes your strong commitment to the fight against sexual violence in armed conflicts. I would like also to express my sincere appreciation to Mr. Ban Ki-moon, Secretary General of the United Nations, to Mrs. Zainab Bangura, Special Representative of the Secretary General for Conflict-Related Sexual Violence, to Mrs. Angela Jolie, Special Envoy of the UN High Commissioner for Refugees, and Mrs. Jane Adong-Eniwar from the NGO Women's Initiative for Gender Justice for their insightful briefings. Mr. President, sexual violence continues to destroy, scar, and traumatize the lives of millions around the world, both victims and survivors, but also families and communities. Women and girls are regrettably the most affected by such deplorable acts. Over the years, a number of tools and mechanisms have been developed to ensure action against the scourge of sexual violence in armed conflict. The Security Council, through its growing focus on women and peace and security, has played an important role in setting up a solid framework to prevent and address conflict-related sexual violence. And also in this context, civil society has also contributed to this noble goal, as well as shed much needed light on one of the history's greater silences. Of course, yet more needs to be done. Today, we have a legal and moral responsibility to act collectively in order to prevent the recurrence of such crimes, strengthen the repressive measures against perpetrators of these horrific acts, and ensure that they do not continue to go unpunished. Mr. President, my delegation would like to to stress on the following 5 points. First, the commitment and ownership of national governments concerned in the fight against sexual violence in armed conflict is crucial to preventing and putting an end to this phenomenon. This requires our collective part and innovative approach that builds upon the gains so far achieved, enhances national ownership in this process, and tackles the root cause of conflicts, namely weak institutions, poverty, marginalization, social discrimination, and exclusion, while ensuring adequate technical assistance and financial support to help states meet their commitments. And Morocco recognized in this regard the important role played by the Special Representative of the Secretary General on Sexual Violence in Conflict and her team in increasing the international visibility of this important issue, and for the valuable support she brings to concerned country, sub-regional and regional organizations. It is crucial, Mr. President, that the United Nations system and the international community continues to support and assist member states while fully respecting their sovereignty in the setting up of relevant national legislation, action plans, and codes of conduct, as well as the strengthening of the institution and the rule of law. 2, it is important to adopt a comprehensive approach to dealing with sexual violence in armed conflicts. Success would only be achieved if concerned countries are also able to address the root causes of this scourge. And for these reasons, a coordinating approach is needed, not only at the national level, but also at the UN level, and notably through strengthening the national institution in prevention of conflicts. In this regard, we highly value the goals of the UN action against sexual violence in conflict and recognize the need for its implementation. Third, the fight against impunity should be a priority. We need to break the existing cycle of violence and prevent the recurrence of such acts in armed conflict by ensuring that those responsible of committing crimes against women and children are brought to justice. 4. Particular attention and priority should be given to the vulnerability of the refugee population, namely women and children in the proximity of combat zones or insecure borders or territories. The restriction of access to vulnerable groups, including women and girls who too often do not have registration documents, poses major risks to the efforts of the UN in the fight against sexual violence in armed conflict. It is important that all parties ensure that refugee camps are given access in order to reduce the suffering, namely of women and children, and to promote their rights and ensure their optimal protection. Lastly, the involvement of public authorities, national institutions for human rights, civil society NGOs, including local women associations, in raising awareness for an enhanced protection of women in conflict situations, as well as the donors community, should be encouraged as they positively contribute to our common endeavor. And finally, Mr. President, I could not conclude before thanking the U.S. delegation for presenting a draft resolution on this important issue, and also hail the constructive spirit of compromise that allowed us today for its adoption. Thank you, sir.